Laughter. Things must be alive to be dying. There is life in the garden. It comes inside as an odor of moss and decay. I will eventually go out to meet it, but now I'm thinking I should wait. I wait until the light lifts, and through the trees I can see the wall where some of the stones have finally given up. 5 steps lead down to a pool carved out of the granite with tiny barnacles clinging to the rocks. The first time you came to take a drink, you lifted your palms to your lips, saw the barnacles, and spit the water back into the basin. "That's a sacred pool," I said. "I don't give a fuck," you said. "It's got living things in it." That was good enough for you, but I wanted you to at least consider the possibility that it was precisely that which made it sacred, and I was convinced you'd come around. You laughed instead at the irony of it, so I laughed. We walked back up the slope, laughing and cursing, the moss sending up its juice under our feet. No one around us understood English. We wanted to go back to the palace and make love, shower, then drink at the small table and watch the sunset. So we did that, because in those days we did exactly as we pleased, and what pleased one pleased the other. I wish I could remember what was so funny at the time. It was an infectious laughter that increased every time we looked at each other. You were always so truly yourself at those moments, so innocent. I never would have thought you could kill somebody. No one who laughed with such defenseless bliss would ever commit an act of violence. Not a serious one, anyway. You told me everything I wanted to know. Everyone does in the first 15 minutes. I've always believed that. It's just that people only hear what they already believe and don't really listen to what other people say. I heard most of what you said, though sometimes I wasn't listening. Anyway, whoever knows how far someone they love will go, who really wants to. Could you have been any plainer, telling me about the rat you smashed to death with a stick before kicking it off the pier into the river? A broken heart it was. I wanted you to love me that way. And you did. You loved me so completely, I was scared, but not of violence. I sensed something much worse. There are many ways of killing, many ways of dying. I also let myself believe you were a little stupid to love me so much, to trust me. So I pitied you too. How did I end up here anyway? I would have to say it started with the 3rd Sunday in March, the first day of spring. I didn't even know you existed or that you were looking for me before I had a face or a name. I was just an idea, part of your plan. You wanted me, you found me, and I told you everything you wanted to know, even though you weren't listening. It was between the matinee and the 8 o'clock performance, and I was going for a walk. I fell off the wagon and went into a donut shop for a honey glazed and a cup of coffee. You were hard to ignore in your leather jacket and long black hair. I sat near the window and read the paper, aware that you were standing with your back to the counter looking at me. The salesgirl asked, "Sir, anything else, sir?" And I glanced up and caught your stare. Then you said no thanks and walked toward me and tripped on the back leg of a chair. I tried not to laugh, but when I saw you laugh, I couldn't help myself. You asked if you could take the empty chair, and I said yes, thinking you meant to take it to a better spot. But you pulled it back and sat down. I looked at you, confused. You laughed again, and I liked the lines that appeared on your cheeks, thinking that once you found out, like so many others, you would say how much you liked me and that we should be friends. The coffee was getting cold and it started to rain. "I have a performance," I said. "Would you like to come?" You said yes, not even asking where, and followed me. As it turned out, you were the one with the great sense of direction, and soon I'd be following you. After a brief sun shower, a yellow light warmed the sea air. The boardwalk was filling up with people coming out of doorways and stalls. The donut was taking its time somewhere between my solar plexus and thorax, and I felt queasy when you took my hand. It seemed unnatural, but I let you. There would be a determining moment soon when you would know. And how you reacted would be either the beginning or the end. We entered through the stage door. I told the stagehand to tell the guy at the door that I had a guest. He kissed my cheek and went around to the front of the theater. The others were in the dressing room, making jokes and talking about their plans for after the show. Marina, the dough girl, sat in her chair singing scales. She had no neck, and the places where her limbs met her torso were indistinct, the folds of flesh along her arms and legs wider than their length. I freshened my makeup and brushed my hair, warmed up at the ballet bar. I stretched my arms above my head, then curled down until my palms were flat against the floor. I regretted the donut. I walked out through the curtain and noticed that you'd taken the seat closest to the stage. Your expression was proud and expectant. I began in a slow gesture, moving along the stage to a theremin being played at downstage right. Extending my left leg, I twisted my torso and bent back until my head touched the ground. Then I returned upright, looked at a spot at the back of the theater, and let my robe fall. I was naked, which probably startled you, but I didn't look. I turned and twisted my body again, making the scales running the length of my spine throw blue and green reflections over the walls and the faces of the audience. They screamed and clapped. I held my breath and turned to face the crowd. Your seat was empty. I was disappointed, but had prepared myself for such an outcome. I continued the dance, each time I turned, undulating to the music, my scales spreading and closing, scattering light over the faces rapt with horror and delight. When I returned to the dressing room, you were waiting outside, holding a bouquet of irises and orchids. "To my abalone," you said. You slipped your hand under my robe and touched my shoulder, sending a thrill through my body. I wondered how long this would last. That night, alone in my room, you said you found it primitive. It excited you. You talked about its iridescence. "The colors of abalone," you said, and called me abalone again. "But it's abalone," I corrected you. "Yes, but you're my ab alone," you said, running your fingers down the center of my back, "because you alone are made this way, this beautiful, strange way." Your touch made my scales rise, a rare pleasure since few were interested, and I certainly couldn't reach it very well myself. I sometimes twisted my arm around my back, as if to scratch an itch, but that was awkward and not worth the effort. You did it so expertly, with such intricacy of touch, though I'm sure you'd never done anything like it before. I decided it was genuine. You meant it. I could feel it, felt you feeling me, like two mirrors reflecting each other ad infinitum. That's the way it was. You tended to me in every way, took me everywhere like a prize, to the playgrounds of high and low culture. After months of riding around in limousines and motorcycles, we ended up here, in this garden, where I was a prisoner long before I was aware of it. You gave the gift of entitlement, the luxury and comfort that I'd always wanted, satisfied my every curiosity. You introduced me to your friends who came from far away. Then strangers entered into it. Things I did at first were done as much for the laughter as for the pleasure I could see it gave you. Your laughter became a drug, and I began to do what I had to, just for a moment's rush of it. I'm not sure exactly when laughter became a cruel thing. You displayed me. First would be the gasps, then the laughter would follow. It took a while, but eventually I began to realize I would never leave this place. I have become a barnacle fastened to the rock in this garden. But there is one more thing about me that you still don't know. Only at the moment when you leave this place forever will it be clear. There will be no witnesses. Then I will be long gone.